Hello and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else comes to mind during the course of our conversation. I'm Rob, and if you appreciate this work that I'm doing here, this edutainment kind of style where I'm giving you a little bit of facts and giving you a whole lot of bullshit afterwards, I'd appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel, maybe click the little bell to be notified when new episodes come out, or just share it with your friends because we've all got friends that like beer. Anyway, joining me today is a newly acquired internet friend that I found on the new social platform. Well, it's not new; it's new to me. New social platform to me, Mastodon. This is Kevie. Kevie, if you would tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into the beer world, and what you do when you're not talking to people like me about beer.
Yes, well, you've already introduced. Obviously, I'm Kevie, and in the internet. To be honest, I'm probably best known for podcasting. I do a podcast called Tux Jam with two other internet folk. That's Andrew Conway McNally, he is, and Dave Lee, called the Love Bug. So the three of us, we do a regular show, Tux Jam. We usually try and get it about once a month, but that's a very liberal take. We have to quite liberal those timings, especially during the summer months when beer takes over.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, well, you said new to you, Mastodon. I've actually been on the Fediverse since 2008, so this is not new to me at all. so
Yeah.
we have had a few different incarnations of it as software and servers and things change. But yeah, I've been on the Fediverse since then. I've been on the current Mastodon server because you do tend to find you do tend to move servers now and again. I've been on the current one since 2018. So if you want to check me out there, I'm Kevie at mastodon.me.uk.
There you go. Awesome. And what do you do in your daily life? Like, I don't need explicit details, but are you in the beer industry? Are you in the service industry? Are you a mailman?
I would dearly love to be in the beer industry, but right now, what keeps the roof over my head and what pays the bills is I'm a teacher. I'm a metalwork teacher.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
No,
so I teach
I mean,
secondary pupils. So as you can imagine, with metalwork, you don't tend to get the ones heading to Oxford and Cambridge. By the time they come to me, usually the first thing I'll say is, right, hands up, who wants to go to university? And you'll get the odd one or two, and I say, right, clear off, you're in the wrong class completely. Got to be realistic.
right. No, I get that. Yeah. All right. So today we are going to be talking about a beer style that I actually haven't covered on the show yet, which is pretty amazing because I've covered a lot of different styles on the show. Today we are going to be talking about Scotch ales and specifically the wee heavy end of the Scotch ales. So, um, it's a classic Scottish ale. Typically, it was known as a 90 shilling ale back in the early days. They used to use a system called the shilling system, where it was based on the amount of tax they paid on a barrel of beer. So it ranged anywhere from 42 to 90. Um, and this would have been a 90 because this one was the more alcohol, the heavier the tax was, obviously, and that's still the case, I think, in most places today. This one comes in anywhere between 6.5% and 10%, so it's got a pretty wide range of what it could be. Um, you know, typical like standard Scotch ales are like 3.5% to 4%, and then you get the ones that are the export style that's like 4.5% to 5%, and then you get everybody else that falls into the wee heavy category. So. Um, it's a solid beer. It's one of my favorites. I actually have a friend who owns a brewery in Wisconsin, and he has one on tap all the time, and it's absolutely fantastic. He actually does a barrel aged version of it, which is amazing because it sits in a barrel for like a year and really kind of gets imparts a whole lot of different flavors to it and everything. It's really nice. For people who are interested, color should be anywhere from a light copper to a dark brown, and we'll see what color mine is and what color Kevie's is when we pour them into glasses. It should have like a caramel aroma to it. Might have some hints of smoke. I know mine's going to have hints of smoke because they use peated barley in the one that I'm using, the one that I'm drinking, and it shouldn't be really bitter. It should have very little to no bitterness, and might have any. Again, this style, it's got a range. It could be anywhere from a sweet to a dry finish on it. So we'll. I have not had the beer that I'm having today before. This is a new one to me, so we'll see what I get. You got anything to add to that, Kevie?
Yeah, just one or two wee bits. You've obviously clearly seen my notes, so that's my notes out the window. uh, no, well, one of the things when you mentioned there about the sweetness in a Scottish beer, the main reason that Scottish beers are nearly always sweet, a traditional, Scottish beer is nearly always sweet, is because hops don't grow well in wet countries, and we're very wet up here. They're
Yeah.
very wet. So what does grow here is barley. So that's what they do. They use the malted barley. I mean, obviously, barley's used for whiskey making, but also the malted barley is used instead of hops. So instead of getting that kind of light, golden, quite bitter beer, it becomes much sweeter. Now, obviously, not all of them are. I mean, I'd never. You had mentioned, I think, as low as 40 shilling. I've never heard of the 40 shilling. 60's as low as I've heard of.
Yeah.
Sorry, as I've seen, not heard, but as seen. And obviously, yeah, it goes up to the 90 there. But yeah, it's quite interesting actually. Well, for somebody who's a beer geek like myself, to get into it. But yeah, it's funny though. A lot of people get caught out on their first visit to Scotland. They'll go in and ask for a pint of heavy. Now you go and ask for a pint of heavy. It's what you call there an export. It's an 80 shilling
Yeah.
style.
Yep.
You'd specifically have to find a wee heavy.
Yep.
Which is different again.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, so what's funny is in doing my research on this, I learned something that I didn't know, that the wee heavy was because they served these 90 shilling beers in 6-ounce bottles that were called nips, and it was just it was a small bottle, so it was a wee heavy. It was a small amount of strong beer, which I was like, well, that makes perfect fucking sense. But I'd never actually heard that before. I'd always heard of the shilling system, because like there's some breweries here in Ontario that in the past few years have been bringing back things like, there was an 80 shilling ale that came out not that long ago, and things like that. And it's like, oh, they're cool. It's cool. They're harking back to the older naming conventions and things like that, and older recipes. They were bringing back an old recipe and trying it out again. So it was something I'd learned. I was like, oh well, it makes sense. And I do like wee heavies. They're great. I mean, most people, anyone who actually knows me in person, knows that most of the beers I drink tend to be in the double-digit ABV. So if I was looking for a wee heavy, I'd be looking for the farther end of the spectrum. The one I have today is at the low end of the wee heavy spectrum. It's a 6.5%, but it's more than adequate, because I'm going to be having some Belgians after this.
Oh.
So I was actually thankful that this was a little bit lighter, because I'm going to be hitting some 9 and 10% Belgians after we're done recording.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Definitely not.
Yeah. So the beer I have is from a company in British Columbia. It's Russell Brewing Company. It's called A Wee Angry Scotch Ale. So bring it up so people can see the can. I'm having to adjust. I actually rearranged my recording studio, and the camera's in a different position than it used to be, because I had to move a couple things on my desk. And so now I'm having to look up to do things that used to be like directly in front of me, but now there's a monitor directly in front of me. So I might get things a little off on the camera for this show, but it is what it is. Oh, there's a good sound.
That is a lovely sound. Now, it's not a sound that you're going to get from me, though, because I have gone for the glass edition.
Very nice.
And this is, is it going to focus? Come on. Skull Splitter from the Orkney Brewery. Now, this one, I deliberately tried to find ones that had this, because this is a rarity in Scotland to get that term. Scotch ale.
Yep.
Because it's not a term that we use to describe beers. It's a term that's used foreignly.
Yeah.
So, because obviously Scotch here is whiskey.
Yep. And it's also one of my favorite things to drink.
So the only two I found there, I've got another one, but I didn't have it, and it's not an easy one to find. It's the Black Isle Brewery have a Scotch ale. And for some reason, it's very difficult. You can get Black Isle Brewery stuff fairly frequently around the place, but the Scotch ale is very difficult to find, but it's not a limited run. So now the other one is by a small brewery down in the Borders, and I'm not going to open this one just now, but this is one of my favorite kind of day-to-day ones. This is Old Jock, so it's on the lower end,
Nice.
6.7, but that's probably one of my favorite regular beers.
Cool. For people who don't know, typically Scotch ales and wee heavies were served in a thistle style glass. I do not own a thistle style glass. I only have so much room for glassware, and I think my wife would probably kill me if I tried to bring more in. So I am drinking mine from a Teku glass today. It's the closest thing I've got to the shape of a thistle glass. If you're into that sort of thing, I'm sure you could find it. Proper temperature for this is 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. That's 50 to 57 degrees in freedom units for the Americans. And it's always best to serve them at the proper temperature, because then you're going to get the full experience of the aromas and the flavors. That being said, if it's a little cold, let it warm up. If it's a little warm, well, just drink it anyway.
Yeah, there's one thing about the wee heavies is that when the worst thing is if you find one you go to a pub or a restaurant or a cafe or whatever, and they've got them in the fridge, because a lot of people say they don't like it because they've only tasted it then, and they produce a really oddly bitter, not bitter hops, bitter, almost like a bitter fruit, like an overripened bit of fruit, and it's a really strange thing. But not
Yeah.
all of them do, but quite a few of them do.
Yeah, I pulled this one out of the cooler about a half hour ago, so that it would come up to the proper temperature. Because I keep my beer cooler, at about 9 degrees, so it's a little colder than this. But I do that just because I have a variety of styles in the cooler, and I'd rather have everything be a little too cold and have to let it sit for a minute and warm up than have to try and cool something back down to the proper temperature. So as I said, the color should be anywhere from like a dark amber to a dark brown. Mine comes in on the dark brown side. It's got a ruddy hue to it. If I'm looking through the light, it's kind of a reddish tint to it. It's got a fantastic caramel and kind of a biscuity aroma. It's nice. You don't get any hop aroma at all on this one, which is typical to the style. And let's give it a taste.
And while Rob's actually tasting out that, I'll give you a quick update on my own. This one is malty, not as fruity as most wee heavies on the nose. Slight, there's a bready note as well, and I can taste a bit of toasted caramel on there as well.
Well, this one's nice. It's got it's got a nice medium body to it, so it's not overly heavy in a mouthfeel. It's a little lingering on the finish, just a touch of bitterness. Not, I mean, way less than you typically get in a lot of other styles of beer. Or a lot of other of the malt forward beers, because they try and balance that malt with the bitterness. This one's real nice. It's just very, 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 very slight bit on the very end of it. It's got a nice, it's got a really good sweet, but not like cloyingly sweet flavor up front on it. That just about halfway through your drink just kind of like dissipates and is gone. It's really nice. This is something, and this one's probably still a little bit cold. It might. I prefer them. I prefer them on the higher end of the temperature scale. This one's probably still around 10 degrees, but it's nice. It's not overpowering. This is something that I could see. I would drink this. Sorry, I would drink this if I was eating like game bird, something fatty, things like that. If I was going to have it with dessert, which I probably would, I'd pair it with something sweet like ice cream or maybe a creme brulee. It would go well with. So yeah, this one's nice. Like I said, I've never had this one in particular before, and it's quite enjoyable. What are you getting out of yours?
Oh, yeah, straight away you get the sweet malts, The but it's funny, sweet but not sickly sweet. It's not a
Hmm.
sickly sweetness. It's got that kind of toasted caramel develops. There's a fruitiness, a dark fruitiness, but it's subtle. Quite, I mean, what you would find is a lot of the wee heavies are actually quite rich fruity. For a wee heavy, the fruitiness is there. It's not overly strong, but it's there. I'd say there's something dark, quite a rich flavour. Uh, yeah, there's that breadiness is kind of lingering, and that kind of almost slightly alcoholic toffiness in the aftertaste. It's lovely,
Yeah,
absolutely lovely.
I do. That is one of the things I really like about this style is that kind of that toffee flavoring,
Mm.
and that's like that's kind of like all the beers that I really enjoy kind of have that that malt forward, that sweetness, but not sickly sweet like you were saying, not cloyingly sweet. I just like a nice well balanced sweetness that comes across. And you're right, that's typical of the style, and this one's the same way. Um, I'm not getting a whole lot of like fruitiness out of this, although you should get some fruitiness out of it. Although this one, I know they used peated barley with this, and there is a hint of smokiness on it. But it's not while you're actually drinking it. It's when you open your mouth and breathe in.
Mm.
It's like from the after. It's like, oh, there's a tiny bit of smoke there, and it's absolutely fantastic. I mean,
And
so
that's actually a skill in itself for them to do smokiness and do it well. Because I've had a number of beers where it's like, nah, that's. I mean, I quite like smokiness, but you're like, no, that's just too smoky. I don't taste anything else.
yeah. Yeah, and I've had a few rock beers like that where it's like, oh well, it's supposed to be smoky. No. This is like a campfire. This is not a
Yeah,
smoky beer.
I I think, I mean, we spoke there about how it should be sweet, but not sickly sweet. One place I absolutely adore normally their beers from is Belgium. I love the Belgian beers, especially again the darker ones. You know, I'm a dark beer person, and they do quite a number of Scotch ales that they call them, and there haven't been an awful lot of them I've liked. The one that I have liked is Macphail. That one's really nice if you want to try that one. But there's a few other ones, and oh my word, it's like, I don't know, it's like drinking alcoholic syrup or something. It's so sweet. It's like, no, this isn't even pleasant. I'd pour this onto a dessert.
Yeah. Well, I've had several beers like that, and I have to be in a certain mood to enjoy a beer like that. And if I'm just looking for a beer that I just want to sit and enjoy, typically I'm not going to go for something that's super sweet like that, or overly sweetened. But there are occasions, and you're right. If I'm doing it for dessert, that might be a different case. If I'm like, there's a brewery in New York called Southern Tier, and they make a barrel aged imperial stout called creme brulee because it tastes
Ooh.
like creme brulee.
Mm.
It's absolutely fantastic. But again, it's one of those that you drink this much and you're done because it's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
And it would be fantastic if it was like if you could reduce it just a little bit in the viscosity, or increase the viscosity a little bit and pour it over ice cream or over pie or something like that. It would be absolutely
Mhm.
fantastic. And it's great on its own. Don't get me wrong, but you can't drink. It comes at it. I don't know if it still does, but it used to come in the big bomber size bottles. Those what are they, about 600 milliliter size bottles, the
Oh,
big
right, okay,
the
yeah.
big
So
boy
like near
bottles.
a pint then, just about a pint.
Yeah. So it
Yeah,
was
a British pint, should I say? A British pint.
oh yeah, an imperial pint, yes. Yeah, so and people are like, are you going to drink that whole thing? I'm like, no.
I don't know. Is Northern Monk? Is that a brewery you get over there?
It is not one that we typically get. I have seen it a couple of times. Like some of their specialty beers or some of their like special occasion beers will make it over here. That is one of the benefits of being a Dominion country is we do have special relationship with the UK, and we tend to get some of the beers from over there. We get who's the other one that we get? We get some Northern Monk, and we get some. I can't think of the name of the other one. Siren.
Oh,
Um,
Silent, yeah.
yeah, we get quite a bit of their beer over here, which is nice because they make some good beers as well.
Yes. The reason I actually brought up the Northern Monk was uh, they have released. Well, they're on their third incarnation actually. So if you're a Star Wars fan, check out, if you can, Death Star 3. I've not seen it yet, but I have seen pictures. But I had Death Star 2. Now the problem is 500 ml can, and you could take this with a spoon, and it's 12%. You know,
Nice.
I was like, I would have happily shared that, but see, coming to the end of that 500 ml can, I was like, no, no, I feel like I've eaten a 4-course meal here. I was genuinely struggling.
I've got out in my cooler right now. I've got a barley wine that I picked up when I was visiting family in the States, and it's a barrel aged barley wine that comes in. I think it's at 17%.
Wow. I've not
Yeah,
tried anything that high in a barley wine.
yeah, and this is the second and last bottle of it that I've got. So it's like in the back of the cooler. I'll save it for a special occasion, or a really really cold night in, like, say, February, when it's like -40 out, and I could just use a good winter warmer. But yeah, it's the same thing. You know, it's a 750 ml bottle, and you have to have a couple people to drink with it. Otherwise, you're going to be just, you're going to be on the floor, is what you're going to be.
Yes, yeah, that's it. It's yeah, that is always a danger. But I think that's maybe one of the reasons why I was never a lager drinker, because where I am here, we're in the Gulf Stream, so the kind of the positiveness for this part of the year is that we don't get cold winters. I mean, I'm talking centigrade here. We never go down below 4 degrees. We just don't see that. We never
Wow.
get to freezing. You know, it just doesn't go. But the other end of the spectrum is, because we've got this constant Gulf Stream, our summers, well, let's put it this way, at 30 degrees is absolutely boiling, and it's a once in every 3-year event for 1 hour. That's it. I mean, usually it's only usually 22, 23 degrees. I mean, that's it. We don't tend to jet and quiet.
That sounds like where I need to live, man. So where I'm originally from, the state of Illinois in the United States, and where I lived in the state of Illinois was as close as you could possibly get to the state of Wisconsin. So, it's northern Illinois. It's the middle of the state. Nothing to block any wind or anything like that. So we got the coldest of the cold in the winter, and it was complete flatlands, and we got the hottest of the hot in the summer. So we're talking, -35, -40. This is Celsius. In the winters, and we're talking 32, 35, for like 2 months of the 3 months that are summer, So, and then where I'm at now, I'm closer to Toronto. So I moved, I moved, I don't know, I moved 150 kilometers north and like 500 kilometers to the east. So now I get -35 in the winters and 30 in the summers. So and being a fat guy, the 30 degrees is no fun, man.
I will see that's one thing. Just because of where I'm from, we kind of tend to yearn that kind of not the winter temperatures, but the summer temperatures. So that's why us Brits, we always tend to like to jump ship to the Mediterranean as quickly as we can. They're all there. We'll go in April, and that it's kind of 25, and they're all there with fur coats on, and things going, it's freezing. We're like, this is glorious, out with the shorts.
Right. Well,
They look at us as if there's something wrong.
I mean, I don't put the shorts away until until it's like the overnight temperatures are consistently in the single digits. 9 degrees. Okay, if it's consistently 9 degrees or lower at night, okay, I'll start wearing jeans during the day. But 10 degrees and above, chances are I'm wearing flip-flops and shorts still. But but the problem is when it gets above like 25 or so degrees, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is not cool.
Well, generally, like I said, it very rarely. I mean, like I said, you'll get the one day out of every 3 years where it'll spike. You might go up to 30, absolute maximum, but that's rare. But yeah, like I said, for the most part, we live in the low 20s in the summer. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily sunny. It's raining, but it's low 20s.
Whereabouts are you? Just generally.
I'm actually in out at Hebrides off the northwest coast of Scotland. So
Nice.
if you can imagine like going up to the north and north of Scotland and drawing a straight line pretty much from between like us and New York City, we're like the last
Hmm.
thing you'll kind of hit, I think. I'm pretty sure
Yep.
before you actually leave. But yeah, there's nothing as far as I'm aware in between uh, us and the rest of the pond. It goes straight across to the coast.
Right. you you're just kind of out there on your own.
Yeah, pretty much. But the thing is, yeah, it's nice. I must admit, I do like it here. A lot of people say,
Yeah.
"How can you live out there in the sticks?" I'm saying it's because I live in the sticks. I like it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and my wife and I are the same way. Um, as we've gotten older, we've moved farther and farther away from the city centers. Um, when you're younger and you want to live in town, you want to be in all the hustle and the bustle. And then I don't know, I hit about 30 and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm done with this. People suck. I want to move away from people.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
But
now I'm living in a smaller town. It's less than 100,000 people where we're at, but we're on the fringes of the town. We're out in an older rural subdivision, so everyone's got these nice big lots. Like we've got 3/4 of an acre of land, and just down the street, you go like a click down the street from us, and it's these giant monster houses on these tiny little lots where you could basically open your window and touch your neighbor's house, and it's starting to encroach on us. So I don't know how much longer we'll be here. We've actually been looking at moving out towards like Nova Scotia.
right.
Um, and buying like 150 acres, putting a house right in the middle of it, and being far away from everybody as we possibly can.
Yeah, but the one thing that I must admit I did like was it was what I tried city lifestyle for 10 years. That was a maximum. I couldn't go anymore. You know, just didn't work for me. But I mean, you were surrounded by people. There was like I had never lived in a flat before. There's people above me, people below me, people either side of me. You heard
Yep.
them through the walls. Did I know any of them? No. And you even try to talk to them, and people just no, I've got to go to work. I'm going to go eat. Bye bye. Or just someone just blank you.
Yeah.
And this is what I like actually about the kind of country life is the fact that I know just all my neighbours. I'm in a village here with 50 houses maximum, and we've all got our own croft areas. All got so it's not like we're built on top of each other.
Right.
And but the thing is, we're still in that kind of era where it's everybody knows everybody, and people will generally help out. The only people who don't know others are kind of incomers who kind of they'll put the shutters up, and people here won't force their way into your house. So if they say no, forget it, then people just won't bother. But the likes of I know that let's just say something happened tonight. Hopefully nothing will, but so if something happened tonight, I could call, one of 6 different neighbours, and I know they'd come over and help us out.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the kind of country life.
Yeah. We've got a similar situation. We're friends with the neighbors all around our house. So, and even a couple of them that are across the laneway from us. We're friends with them. And if things got into a pinch or whatever, we could call upon any one of them really, and they'd be more than willing to help us. And that is nice. And you're right. When I lived in a bigger town, when I lived in closer to a city center, it's very much that people don't like. I guess they don't make time for their neighbors. You
No,
don't know who your
definitely not.
neighbors are. You see them, you know who they are by sight, but you don't know anything about them. They're not your friends. Your friends all live somewhere else.
I know it's funny. You get the idea. Well, I had the idea kind of moving down to the city the first time it would be something similar to Friends, the TV show. I kind of had that in my head. I don't know why. I think it was just because of where I came from. Like I said, there was always people in and out of the house. You know, and you're like, no, I don't know any of my neighbours. I mean, yes, like you say, you know them to see, but you don't know
Right. Yep. Awesome. So if people are looking to seek out your podcast, or maybe they want to seek you out on the social networks, where can they find you at, Kevie?
Well, as we've already said, I'm on Mastodon. I'm actually on Mastodon in 3 places. I'm just to be awkward, of course. I'm I'm mastodon .me.uk. That's my kind of day-to-day, everyday chat. I'm also where you met me, a Kevie on mastodon.beer. And this is really unprofessional of me. I don't even have my phone on me. I can't remember the third one because I've just literally joined it. The third one is one purely for sports.
Ah, I see. You're
Where
keeping
did
them
I?
all
Oh,
separate.
my phone is here. Well, yes, because one thing you will find is actually, to be honest, this is one thing that's been good about the recent intake from Twitter is that there's been a lot more uh, instances pop up that are specific,
Yep.
and generally, I'm a total Linux geek. I'll give you that, and I'm also Creative Commons kind of music kind of guy. I'm a beer guy, but I'm also a sports guy, and the problem is the sports doesn't fit in generally with the traditional Mastodon users. So when I do tend to put it on, I tend to hashtag it because you can easily block a hashtag on Mastodon. You
Hmm.
can just say I don't want to see these. But now I'm Kevie at allpro.social. So I haven't posted much there, but that is one that's dedicated entirely to sports.
Nice, nice. And
Yes.
what was the name of your podcast again?
The podcasts that I do, well, there's actually 2 that I do. Well, 2 that I'm involved in. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Tux Jam. Now, again, that's the geek in me coming out. Tux Jam, Tux is the Linux mascot for anyone that
Yep.
doesn't know. And you've got Jam was just literally a jamming session with music. It combines Linux stuff and Creative Commons music. So every show, there's myself, there's Dave, and there's Andrew. And what we'll do is we'll yarn about something small time. So things like apps on the phone or uh, stuff on the Linux desktop that's not big stuff. We would never review something like Firefox or Audacity, something where most people know about. It's always small
Right.
apps, and we actually try out quite a bit of distros as well. And but in that there's usually about 4 to 5 tunes in it as well.
Nerd.
No, I prefer the term geek. All right, geek.
Yeah, I'm a geek, not a nerd. God damn
It's a
it! Yeah,
proud geek.
that's right. The guy calling you nerd who has the Fallout weapons hanging behind him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got that, and I did start that one way back in 2011, I think it is. Yes, because we had our 10th anniversary. 2011, we started. Oh, I started it. I was really naive. I stupidly thought I could easily run a regular podcast all by myself. I soon found it was funny. The first few months, I kind of had like in the first week, I had the 3 or 4 recorded, and I knew I deliberately didn't want to post them because I thought, well, wait a minute, no, because there's no way I can maintain that. But then I kind of found out that when I was doing it on myself, life gets in the way. At the
Yes, it
time, I
does.
had a very young child. You're working, you're doing X, Y, and Z. So life got in the way. So it was then, I think I did it by myself for a couple of years. And then I kind of went on a kind of 6 to 8 month break. And I asked Andrew, who was also a member in Identica way back then. And I said to him, do you want to come on Tux Jam and basically kick my backside so that I actually do a show? And he goes, yeah, why not? So he came on. And then I can't remember exactly how. I think we just maybe had Dave on as a guest. This is going a few years later. Dave came on as a guest. Now Dave has got his own show, and he's got a few shows. In fact, he's quite a established podcaster. He does the Bugcast, which you can just find at thebugcast.org, and I know that one. It's a music show. He also does one called I'm Earl Grey Hot, Tea Earl Grey Hot, something like that. It's
Is
nothing
that
to
a
do with
Star
tea.
Trek one?
Yeah, it's Star Trek one. Yeah. I was going to say nothing to do with tea. I'm a tea fan, but yeah, he does that along with Yannick, and I think there's maybe another person in it. I'm not a Star Trek fan, so I'm not Trekkie. So I don't dislike it. I just never ever got into it.
Yeah, no, and no judgment from me because I am a Trekkie. Most of my friends are actually Star Wars, really
Yeah,
Star
see,
Wars
that's
heavy.
it. I was a Star Wars guy.
Now,
I am.
I like Star Wars, but to me, Star Trek is it trumps Star Wars for me. Now, I know that's not the case for a lot of people, but it was always, I don't know, there was just something. It was more about the science, I guess. It seemed like Star Trek was always more grounded in what could plausibly be real science, whereas Star Wars is based on this quasi mystical, thing called midichlorians, which is what powers everyone's force powers and things like that. I'm like, but don't get me wrong, I like Star Wars. I own all the Star Wars movies, and my wife is a huge Star Wars fan, and so we watch all the Star Wars TV shows, we watch all the Star Wars movies. But on the flip side, we also watch all the Star Trek shows and all the Star Trek movies.
Yeah, I must admit, actually, as far as that goes, I am absolutely loving. Topic off topic here, talking about the podcast are going way out, but I'm absolutely loving the current Star Wars shows, The Mandalorian, especially. I loved that one. I'm looking forward to the next episode, next season.
The next season,
Boba Fett was good, but I don't know. I felt lacking. I felt like it was getting into it.
Boba Fett was 3 episodes about Boba Fett, and then it turned into a Mandalorian. Mandalorian episode.
The Mandalorian episode, series 2.5. Yeah, and now I have just started Obi-Wan, so no spoilers.
It was okay. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily know that it was a story that needed to be told, but that being said, it was enjoyable. Just like I felt the same way about the Han Solo movie. Not something I would have asked for, but it was enjoyable.
Right. Actually, the Han Solo one was one I kind of almost deliberately avoided. I just don't know. It just never appealed to me for whatever reason. And Han Solo is probably my favorite character in the original trilogy. But it just never appealed to me, and I haven't gotten around to watching it. It's not that deliberately avoided. I just haven't gotten around to watching it because it's not been on my to-do list.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So sorry. So to get totally way back, you can find Tux Jam. Remember that show we're talking about?
Yeah. What were we talking about?
What are we talking about here? You can find Tux Jam at tuxjam.otherside.network. So Tux Jam, when first started, it was part of Unseen Studios, but Unseen Studios kind of wrapped up. So that was when it was at the same time, roughly the same time as Amped. I think it was Amped. It was called. It was a music-based podcast network, so they kind of wrapped up. And there was a couple of others, just kind of co-time. So that's when myself and Dave and a few others got together, and we said we should make something that's. Pardon me, because the problem was all of the networks that we were with were so specific that if somebody wanted to join, they made it difficult for other genres to join. It had to be only tech or only music. I mean, I tried to join that only music one at the start and was told there was too much tech in it. I tried to join another tech one, and I was told there was too much music in my show. Oh, for flick's sakes. So I said, how about just that we have something so that it's basically kind of open to anybody who just wants to be doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's when otherside.network started up.
Nice.
Yes. So so you can head along there. The other thing I do is CC Jam. Now, I didn't actually intend this to be mine at all. It was just something that kind of grew out of Tux Jam because I was finding I'd found an awful lot of good music, but the problem was Tux Jam was only 4 tracks, and I didn't like to replay artists that I'd already played. So the idea with CC Jam was that it was just something that someone could record just a couple of minutes, very, very short, and have one band on it or one artist, and they would start the show with a track and end the show with a track and just say what literally, if it was, look, I can't find anything about this, they've got a couple of tracks on Bandcamp, here they are, that's it, that was fine. Or if they could find a bio or something, they could spiel as much as they wanted. So, so sadly, CC Jam kind of didn't really catch on as much as I was wanting. We're currently up to about episode 80 or something, maybe not as much as that, maybe it's in the 70s, but it's around about there. But the idea was never meant to be my show. It was more meant to be others contributing. So please, if you actually want to contribute, feel free to go and check it out. ccjam.otherside.network. It was funny. It had a bit of a initially when I announced it. I think we had like episodes 1 to 13 roughly from sent in straight away. There was a few of me, but not many. And then it was kind of like everybody kind of went, oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one you can find. It's part of Other Side Network. You can CC Jam at otherside.network.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Awesome. Well, Kevie, we've been talking for about 40 minutes. We talked a little bit about beer. We talked a little bit about geekery. We talked about some tech. I think it's been a good show. Um, if people are looking to hook up with me on the social networks, or I guess not hook up, that's a bad term to use these days. If people are looking to find me on the socials, I am on Mastodon. I'm Rob from Internet at mastodon.beer. I'm on Instagram, Rob from the Internet on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, Rob from Internet. You want to follow the adventures of my new brewing system that I'm hooking up in my my brewing space here at the house. You can go to brewthulu.com and follow along with the story there. I'm up to four entries on that so far. So as we get closer to actually getting it hooked up and brewing some beer on it, we'll do some video and things like that. Other than that, it's been great talking to you, Kevie. As always, I'm Rob from the Internet. Cheers.
Chin chin.
Oh, look at that. Your glass is empty.
It's a bit dry.